There will be two types of creatures in Star Citizen: your casual boids, squirrels, birds, fish, rodents, and other small animals that add presence to the game, but not much else. And then there are the actual fauna. There's another group that's basically just bug-like VFX, but we won't pay much attention to them. We're here for the real deal. These creatures are expected to be quite nuanced. Differences in their actions could be as minute as attacking a player just for the sake of it, versus only attacking a player if they're looting said creature's potential food. Or maybe you come across an absolute unit that only really steps up if you approach its young. And perhaps you've just come across a gentle giant that's happy to let you hang around. Whatever fauna you do come across in Star Citizen, it all seems to be starting right about now, and planned for implementation in the near future, according to our most recent development update. Let's take a look at the different fauna you'll be hunting, shepherding, and observing in the verse, and why they'll matter. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. Fauna in Star Citizen is planned to be a mixture of alien design on more terrestrial planets and Earth-inspired forms on terraformed planets. The company is creating creature archetypes based on real-world examples like bears, tigers, birds of prey, and more. This might seem like it's just because it's easier for the concept artists, but it actually does a lot to inform players of how a creature in the game may act by speaking to our existing expectations. And there's a lot that'll go into these creatures and how they act. These fauna are not expected to be a 3-flavor blend of different walking and attacking speeds. They're going to be quite distinct, with specific goals, 24-hour behavior designs, and specific predictable biomes and environments where they can be located. Outside of that info, we don't know much about specific actions they'll do though, but we do know what our first 5 or 6 creatures in the game will look like or be named. The first creature we're taking a look at are these tiger-like creatures, which seem likely planned for a future planet after we complete Stanton, seeing as how we haven't seen them mentioned anywhere else. It's one to certainly keep an eye out for in some form in the future, but likely not on the first 2 systems. This bird, though, might actually be a surprising early addition to the game per recent monthly reports, but we'll look at that later. The Kazi Grazer is a herding animal, roaming in packs and not very aggressive. These alien things come from Terra, but have been placed on basically every terraformed planet in human space. This is because the spread of this animal was built into the terraforming process to better distribute the livestock and create reliable ecosystems. The livestock use of these animals, as obvious as it may be, was confirmed during CitizenCon when we saw them grazing at a human farm. But they can also be hunted and are generally utilized for their eggs, meat, and even their tanned hide for clothing crafting. The Stormwall, or more commonly known as the Space Whale, is located on Crusader. It is also somewhat of a herding animal, and while they live primarily in the densest regions of Crusader amongst the clouds, they do occasionally rise to the upper reaches and breach the clouds, providing tourists to the gas giant some nice sights and possibly allowing for some harvesting off the body. Barnacles or other valuable materials could be a resource worth venturing here for, and Orison already hosts the physical locations needed to run these tours of the whales when they are ready. The Boreal Stalker is a Yeti-like creature, a product of Microtech's ambitions on their planet. This is a test tube alien created specifically to be the predator of Microtech, and while it's succeeding and becoming quite the predator, it is also likely going to be a common target for hunting in the alpine forests and will no doubt offer crafting and harvesting opportunities if you can beat one up in battle. The Pyro Crab is obviously not in Stanton, it's in Pyro, and they're probably the scariest creatures we'll go over today. This exoskeleton-covered hive-dwelling beast can grow up to about 6 meters tall. It blends in with the rocks around it, and it hosts a defensive rock-like carapace for protection and camouflage. You can actually see one featured here as an Easter egg in an old ISC looking at Pyro. These will undoubtedly be fauna to hunt, fight against, and harvest, but it's unclear as of yet just how aggressive they are. These creatures will likely be waiting for us in the Pyro system shortly after the new space is added to the game, and with the purported size, it should be quite the challenge to face. The Xiphopods are like the little rats of Lorville. Now they aren't just on Hurston, but that's where we've seen them, all the way back in 2017. They are omnivorous and seen mainly as a pest in the Lorville area due to their high reproductivity and in Stanton's particular case, a very good environment in Hurston to grow on. So outside of harvesting these nearby cities, you'll also find them clustered in groups in low-lying grasslands, likely offering some kind of harvestable for use in food and crafting. There are going to be quite a few creatures that we may see soon, but we hear that all the time. Where is CIG actually at on getting these creatures into the game? The first real strong sign that fauna was a serious consideration coming to the game came from the sandworm in 2016. Wait, no, it was the xiphopods in 2017. No, sorry. In 2020, we finally saw an inside Star Citizen dedicated to fauna, and it did not disappoint. Only just in the fact that it was about 4 years ago and we still haven't seen them. But it did build awareness of some of the creatures we just covered and explained where the team was in the process. Safe to say, they hunkered down after that. We didn't really hear or see much more outside of Q&As and monthly reports. You can imagine they didn't have much to do here since we were still trying to get humans to walk around straight. But a significant update from those monthly reports was about 15 months ago when the animation team had gotten started on the first interactable animal. This was likely the Kazi Grazer, as just recently in January of 2024 we received an update that another animal was being worked on, which was a four-legged predator, probably not the Grazer. Now, this could be any number of concepts and is joined by a bird and a fish as well. Not sure if these are boids, or it could be our old bird friend we looked at earlier. Also recently in November, we were made aware that CIG was looking for a talented individual who could completely own the creature pipeline and put the work in behind launching these assets in the game. This was a pretty advanced job listing for a senior designer who would be responsible for, quote, ensuring the world of Star Citizen is full of life, from the tiniest of creatures to apex predators. From the human population in outpost cities and space stations to the strange aliens on distant worlds, end quote. And reading further we can see, quote, they are responsible for creating the AI behaviors for all those and the interactable entities that these NPCs and creatures use in the world, end quote. Since this listing is still up, I'm not sure if they need more or just haven't filled it, but I imagine our seeing more of these creatures may depend on this senior designer. And the position is a big sign, as all of what we've been talking about is really R&D, modeling and handcrafting the first examples of this system, much like what we saw with derelict ships, rivers, and even planets before them. As Star Citizen has been built, we've seen several types of items and places that go through this custom building phase before turning into a tool that can be used. This signifies some effort to continue developing AI over time as the game expands. We've seen the beginnings of this with human character combat traits at CitizenCon, but civilians, animals, store clerks, industrial workers, medical staff, and more will all need to act and speak differently from one another. And that brings us back to the wild things. A large part of these fauna are just focused on building out the verse, adding life, and making the game believable. But just discussing these creatures makes obvious how these additions could play into other parts of the game. With the ability to craft anything in the game, there's no doubt fauna will be used for armor and other items like oils or leathers. And I do wonder how some aggressive fauna could be used to complicate base building like what we see in Satisfactory. Besides that, fauna also offer tourism options. The space whales are an obvious place to take a tour, but many other types of aliens may be too risky for the average citizen to see, and you could make a living facilitating that demand. There will also be pets in the game. As a stretch goal, CIG plans on delivering some form of pets to players, and while you might not take Johnny the Raptor home to play, there could be some form of companion in the future. And up until this point, the problems they have faced releasing these creatures is the network load it adds to the server and the state of AI. While AI is good enough to run humans in combat, at least on a good server, the unique behaviors of animals were likely not worth diving into until the game was further along. Now that AI is seeing major updates, the team is clearly gearing up to have fauna in the game in short time. There's no knowing exactly when that might be, but I would guess we will see at least one of these creatures in game by 4.0, though I'd suggest keeping an eye out over the next couple of months for more hints, because like the other parts of Star Citizen, I think this could start moving quite a bit faster than expected now. If you want to know more about Star Citizen, its development, or what you can even do in the game, consider subscribing here for videos and streams, and check out my second channel, Space Tomato 2, for more discussion, podcasts, and deep dives. I hope you learned something new in this video, and I'll catch you in the next.